In the 90s, I guess, at the time, the theater, what's that like?
Ooh.
For all of us, I guess, yeah.
Well, I mean, there was that fantastic play, Butterfly, in the West End, the Shaftesbury Theatre, David Henry Hwang. First time an Asian American, I think, had won a Tony Award for a Broadway play, and it did very well over here. So that's great. But I think in terms of companies, the scene was quite sparse. So there was British Chinese Theatre, and then I think when Susan passed away, then that did company continue, and then there was Mulan, which was Glenn Gui, who after doing M Butterfly, so he was the star of M Butterfly with Jamie Hopkins, and then after he finished M Butterfly, he was kind of trying to build a career, and then realizing the landscape was very bare, so that's why he started Mulan Theatre, which was fantastic. And Glenn and I were both involved in one of the readings that British Chinese Theatre did before.
Yes, they
started before. They did a play reading.
Glenn Go was here because of M Butterfly, right?
Glenn was here because of M Butterfly, and then Susan not
Singaporean.
But there was very little.
There was very little.
There was very little theatre then, and very, very little. And if we were to get a small one-line part, it was already a miracle,
And it was a triad
for
right?
us, and usually it will be.
I didn't really.
And that was the television and so on, film.
Yeah.
But in terms of then stage work, it's almost nothing. Nothing. Absolutely.
I mean, apart from work for young people, children's theatre was much more progressive, and particularly at Polka, they were much more open to diversity because they needed to represent the audiences they were playing to. So thank goodness, places like Polka and Unicorn were just much more progressive.
Unicorn, Vicky Ireland, who ran Polka Theatre then in the 90s, early 90s, and many years after as well, was broad-minded and forward, looking enough to say, let's move away from, let's look at the global majority, look at tales from other places, and that's how you get Josh in the Tea Kettle and Magic Paintbrush and the Snow Lion after that.
And the second job after M Butterfly, I did King Rollo at Watermill Theatre. So King Rollo's Space Invader. So it's kind of like work for young people. They were definitely much more open. And there was the odd company doing adult work that wanted to be a bit.
Which is just, well, I was about to say, I think it's the awakening of, in the 90s, probably actually of diversity, and the diversity including us, as part of the diverse community. Because after Changeling, which is obviously, done especially for us, I auditioned and I got a part in Hiawatha in Bristol Old Vic, which is a diverse cast, of people, and Lily Susan Todd was the director. And again, that was in 1990, 91, So I think it's beginning to wake up, actually, in small ways, but the slightly larger places.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, in terms of, like, I also later did Hiawatha. So it's kind of, it's like the ethnic show. They will consider us.
Yeah.
But the kind of mainstream, Shakespeare, Chekhov, those things. I mean, that's what we trained for at drama school, and there was no company really in the 90s, in the early 90s, that progressive. It's much more work for young people. Children's theatre was much more progressive.